Walking into my office that morning felt like entering a battlefield I never signed up for. My name is Andrew Hayes. I am 45 years old and half owner of Hayes Manufacturing, a family-run enterprise. The receptionist buzzed me in, and I glanced at the silver-framed photos lining my desk. 7 years of marriage, frozen in time. Then the door opened to reveal a tight-lipped attorney holding divorce papers. My wife's downward spiral had been swift. Late-night disappearances I chalked up to stress. Credit card statements showing lavish spending, and whispers that she'd forged my signature on a bank loan. Next thing I knew, she'd rented a U-Haul in my name to move out, leaving me with the bill. Instead of panic, I felt clarity sharpen around me. I stepped into the corridor and called a trusted legal friend. By the time I reopened that envelope, every joint account was emptied, credit cards frozen, and 2 witnesses had logged the precise second I broke the seal, bulletproof against any restraining order freeze. In mediation, she leaned forward, confident her high-powered Dallas attorney would carve out my half share of the company, and more. I brought in crates of evidence. Bank statements tracing her debt spiral, home inspections exposing structural flaws, and inheritance documents proving my stake was separate property. As afternoon light crept across the polished mahogany table, the mediator delivered the ruling. She walked away with $45,000 for her debts and expenses, but none of my business. Her lawyer, red-faced, muttered under his breath and called her a derogatory name. I saw my opening and offered to write her settlement check directly to his firm, ensuring she got nothing extra while he collected every penny. He stared at me, then nodded. I signed the check and watched him disappear down the hallway, and moments later, saw her arrive at the glass doors, tears streaming. In that single, silent exchange, 7 years of betrayal and broken trust crystallized into one unyielding lesson. When everything's on the line, decisive, measured action is the truest form of vindication. I stepped out of that downtown law firm under the late morning glare, heart still thrumming from the cold opening salvo. There was no time to savor the victory. The real battle was just beginning. I hailed a cab to my office, every stoplight ticking like a countdown. As the cityscape blurred past, I reviewed my next moves, retained bulletproof counsel, marshal every document, and keep her lawyer off balance. I arrived, greeted by my personal secretary, Laura, who'd become my project manager through this ordeal. Her eyes met mine over a stack of manila folders. "What's our first order today?" I asked. She slid me a folder labeled Financial Freeze Defense and another marked Asset Segregation. Inside were charts showing account flows, loan documents with her forged signature highlighted, and a map of our property holdings. Laura had coordinated with accountants overnight, ensuring every cent and every paper trail was airtight. By noon, I was in a glass-walled conference room with my lead attorney, Mark Stevenson, and his senior legal assistant. Mark's steady gaze and crisp suit eased the tension. He tapped his pen on the table. "We'll file a motion to quash the restraining order based on witness testimony. Then we'll submit an emergency petition for attorney's fees. She can't skip out on those." His assistant laid out the timeline. Day 1, file motions before court opens. Day 3, serve her counsel with subpoenas for financial records. Day 5, discovery hearing on forged documents and U-Haul charges. Throughout, Laura ensured every signature, every stamp, every PDF upload was flawless. With each box checked, my confidence grew. This wasn't merely defense. It was a counteroffensive. On day 3, I watched from Mark's office as process servers delivered subpoenas to her attorney's firm. I could almost see the ripple. A high-end divorce shop suddenly forced to turn over its own billing records and correspondence. That evening, I met Laura at a neighborhood cafe, black coffee in hand. "They're panicking," she said, eyes gleaming. Emails show them scrambling to redact notes. You've got them on the ropes. I nodded, feeling the momentum shift. My wife's dream of a quick, lucrative divorce was unraveling thread by thread. Next, we tackled the U-Haul fiasco. I subpoenaed taxi camera footage and storage yard logs, pinpointing the exact time and location the truck was delivered and how long it stayed. Armed with timestamps, Mark confronted her lawyer. Your client rented a truck in my client's name without authorization. That's fraud. We'll seek punitive damages. Her attorney, brush-cut and perspiring, stammered excuses. He'd assumed I'd remain passive. Wrong move. By filing that motion, we forced them into court hearings and depositions, draining their energy and resources. At the 1-month mark, Mark and I agreed on a bold move. A confidential letter to the family business's board of directors, alerting them to pending litigation and potential reputational fallout. I didn't want a scandal, but the implicit threat, board members preparing for a share value hit, added leverage. Within days, I received calls from my brothers, urging a swift settlement. The pressure tilted in my favor. Frustrated, my wife escalated, filing an emergency motion for temporary spousal support, claiming I was withholding income. She sought her monthly rent, car payments, and living expenses, hoping to bleed me dry. Mark refused to blink. At the hearing, with Laura's meticulous preparation, we produced pay stubs from the family firm, corporate resolutions halting distributions, and affidavits from accountants verifying no discretionary cash. The judge denied her request, admonishing her attorney for seeking relief based on speculation, not facts. As we left the courtroom, Mark's assistant patted my shoulder. That's the second time today we've saved you 6 figures. Back at the mediation table, the air crackled. She spoke of betrayal and broken promises, but every claim she made, overvalued assets, false debts, had already been dismantled. I offered to pay her agreed $45,000 in full, but only once all motions were withdrawn and attorneys closed their ledgers. Her lawyer hesitated, eyes darting to his billing software. Finally, with Mark's calm insistence, they conceded. I wrote the check in the lobby outside his office. His stunned whisper, "I never thought you'd actually do it," still echoes. Handing it over, I felt not triumph over her plight, but the satisfaction of equitable resolution on my terms. Through it all, tension pulsed beneath each legal maneuver. Every folder delivered, every subpoena served, every motion filed wasn't just paper. It was a pledge to fairness and the protection of everything I'd built. In late nights reviewing Discovery, I thought of the life she'd abandoned and the new chapter we were supposed to forge together, one defined by integrity, not spite. As I walked away from the mediation building, the weight of that certified check in my pocket felt lighter than any victory I'd ever known. But the true measure of this fight would be how I carried the triumph forward, into my company, my community, and my own life. Back at Hayes Manufacturing, I gathered our leadership team in the main boardroom. The afternoon sun slanted across polished surfaces as I spoke without notes. Last week, I faced a betrayal that threatened everything we've built. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to transparency, to our clients, and to each other. I rolled out a concise action plan. Client Open Forum, a live Q&A streamed online so customers could ask any question, no matter how tough. Ethics Audit, a third-party review of our financial controls to prevent even the hint of impropriety. Community Reinvestment, a pledge to donate 1% of annual profits to local nonprofits, turning our resilience into real-world support. No boardroom applause could match the genuine nods and determined faces around me. We were no longer simply recovering. We were setting a new standard. A few days later, Laura knocked on my office door with a stack of custom-branded toolkits. Each kit bore a plaque engraved with a client's name and our motto, service unbroken. Inside were precision wrenches, calibration gauges, and a personal note from me. Thank you for believing in us. This is proof of our unwavering partnership. By week's end, I'd spoken on the phone with half our top accounts, getting thank you messages instead of complaints. A small investment yielded boundless goodwill. Remembering my own need for guidance, I launched the Hayes Fellowship, pairing senior reps with junior colleagues. At our inaugural cohort meeting, I introduced Miles, the former Apex rookie I'd helped. When I started here, I was lost. But through mentorship and decisive action, I've learned that our greatest asset is each other. His story underscored the real payoff, turning foes into friends and transforming pain into purpose. One evening, I returned to that quiet oak-shaded park where I once paused after the divorce papers arrived. The same bench, the same rustle of leaves, but a different man sat there now. I looked at the old phone I'd kept as a memento, its screen off, its secret mission complete, and thought. Anger ignited the spark, but vision fanned the flame. I tucked the phone into my jacket pocket, a reminder not of vengeance, but of resilience forged in fire. A decade later, I stood backstage at the National Business Summit, ready to share my story. The lights dimmed, the audience hushed. I stepped forward, holding a simple U-Haul keychain, once a symbol of deceit. This little keychain represents betrayal at its starkest, but it also marks the moment I chose precision over panic, strategy over spite. May it remind you that true power lies not in retaliation, but in the legacy you build afterward. The standing ovation wasn't just for the tale. It was for the universal lesson that viewers could apply in their own lives. Today, Hayes Manufacturing thrives across 3 states. Our phones still ring, sometimes forwarded out of habit, but always answered with empathy and expertise. New clients join, old clients stay, and every call reinforces a reputation unbroken by adversity. My journey from betrayal to breakthrough didn't end at a courtroom table. It began anew with each pact I made, with my team, my community, and myself. That fall afternoon, the leaves along Main Street turned golden as I walked into the same upscale law offices where it all began. The polished mahogany walls now felt less intimidating, evidence of how far I'd come since those first divorce papers landed on my desk. I paused in the foyer and spotted her attorney, pacing beside the reception desk. His tailored suit no longer exuded confidence, but tension. He glanced up, startled to see me. "You're here," he said, with a seemingly low voice. I offered a curt nod and entered the conference room. She was already seated, clutching a folder like a shield. This was the moment to close the loop, but I felt no triumph in her discomfort, only the resolve to finish cleanly. I sat down opposite them and placed a single envelope on the table. "I've reviewed the final statements," I said smoothly. "I'll cover any remaining legal fees for your firm, and that's that." Her attorney's eyes narrowed. "You do that? After everything?" I leaned forward, voice calm. I never wanted personal chaos to become professional collateral. My priority was protecting my company, not punishing her. Consider this my parting gesture. He flipped the envelope open, a check made out for every last invoice. Relief washed over his face. She looked up, astonished. "Why are you doing this?" No bitterness, no grandstanding, just quiet compassion. "Because I believe in fairness," I replied. "Our past decisions led us here. It's time to turn the page." Her shoulders slumped. In that instant, I saw the person she might have been, rather than the one who'd torn our life apart. As I stood, she followed. "Will there be anything else?" I asked her attorney. He shook his head, clearing his throat. "No, Mr. Hayes. This settles everything." I offered her a polite nod, then stepped into the corridor. Pausing at the glass doors, I looked back to see her, standing beside her lawyer. No longer adversaries, but two people with a closed chapter. Outside, the autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh rain. I walked to my car, hands in pockets, heart light. No announcement, no ceremony, just the steady click of my footsteps. That evening, I met Laura and Mark at a neighborhood bistro. Over casual chatter and spicy pasta, we toasted to new beginnings. Their smiles weren't about revenge's end, but about the promise of what lay ahead. Driving home under a canopy of streetlights, I reflected. Decisive strategy, securing accounts, and legal maneuvers protected my past. Measured compassion, covering her legal fees, honored the principle of fairness. Lasting integrity, walking away clean, ensured my future wouldn't be haunted by acrimony. I pulled into my driveway and stepped out, looking up at the house I'd rebuilt with care. Inside, a life of purpose and peace awaited, proof that the sharpest victory is one that preserves your own character. A week later, a plain white envelope arrived in my home mailbox. Inside was a letter from my ex-wife, her own words of apology and admission of fault, penned in shaky handwriting. She wrote, "I see now how much I ruined, not just our marriage, but your trust. Thank you for handling everything with such integrity." I tucked that letter away, not out of spite, but as a reminder that even the most fractured relationships can leave seeds of reflection. A while ago, I saw her close to a parking lot at the location where I had fixed a get-together for the employees in my company. Her life didn't appear to have been all that prosperous, but she's still married to the guy she was sleeping with. He turned out to be a major underachiever and has gotten in trouble with the IRS for attempting to refuse to pay taxes. You've seen how a single strategic move can reshape a life. Now it's your turn. I held up the U-Haul keychain one last time. What would you do if betrayal landed at your door?